David was seen as a man after God's heart. But David could kill somebody. Let me tell you why. There was an aspect of David that hated passionately to be seen as a bad person. He could rationalize it this way, that if people got to know, they will lose faith in him, thereby lose faith in God. So even killing that person, he could persuade himself that it was actually an act of ministry or something like that. David just killed a man. Look, he slept with somebody's wife, a young lady, a young girl. I'm sure the girl was maybe not up to 20. Got her pregnant. So there was no way to abort unlike now, So he tried to cover it up by making sure the husband got drunk. So they plied the man with alcohol until he became so drunk. But even though he was intoxicated, he was not inebriated. They wanted him to go home to sleep with his wife so that they could pin the pregnancy on him. But the man refused to go. He was still conscious of his responsibility and he waited there and he slept in the parlor. And when David got to him, he said, "You didn't go?" The guy said, "I can't go to my house. So the people of God, better than me, soldiers, and the Ark of the Covenant are out there in the tent fighting on the war front. So why should I go home to my wife?" The guy was a very disciplined person. And David took that person, one of the most disciplined soldiers in the land, and killed that man because he wanted to cover his sin. Now, here's where I'm going. David did all this without any pang of guilt at all. Now, let me ask you, look at David. Was David an unkind person? That's what some of us don't realize. David was not an unkind person. Can you mention the acts of kindness that David actually performed in the course of his career? Do you think he fed the poor? Did people come to him to ask for favor that he did? Did they? Yeah, as a king, he actually took care of a lot of people. David was seen as a man after God's heart, but David could kill somebody. Let me tell you why. What it meant was that there was an aspect of David that hated passionately to be seen as a bad person. In fact, he would guard against it with anything. So he prioritized looking good before people. His reputation was so great to him, was so important to him that he would rather die than to get people to see him as somebody who did something bad. For God's sake, people must not know. Now again, what you say about him is that in that aspect of his life, it was so bad with him that whatever he did to protect himself would not be counted as bad in his own conscience. No, he won't see it. Now he could rationalize it this way, that if people got to know, they will lose faith in him, thereby lose faith in God. So even killing that person, he could persuade himself that it was actually an act of ministry or something like that. Like a pastor will sleep with somebody's wife, mess up somebody, abuse, and say, if people get to know, a lot of people will leave the church. He will convince himself that hiding the sin was actually, a service to the church. In other words, they had done the work of God. If you do not let the Spirit of God really search you and deal with those things, I've told you again and again, there is nothing anybody can do. The pastor is a bishop, whatever. There's nobody in this world that cannot commit some bad thing. It is because the Spirit of God is in us. And there are certain things restricting a lot of people. That's why you think they're nice. When Jesus said there is no good man, actually we're just saying it concerning men. Generally, it is the Spirit of God that makes people good. It is the influence of the Spirit of God in this world as of now that's still keeping people in some areas, just still keeping us morally sane. That's why we need to submit to God.